Hola my friends, this is Al Montes and welcome back to my channel. Just hopping on here real quick to say that what you're about to see was originally just a segment of an entire video that I planned to make analyzing the vibes of all the different NHL teams heading into the Olympic break. But when I got around to editing, I realized that each division is about 15 minutes long, and that would come out to about an hour video. And I realized that I really don't have the equipment to handle making an hour-long video. And also, I thought it could get a little bit boring pretty fast. So instead, I'm going to be releasing each division individually as its own video. Hopefully, y'all still like it. Make sure to watch all 4 videos when they come out. It would really mean a lot to me. It ended up being a lot more effort than I realized going into it. But I had a lot of fun recording this, venting a little bit as well. So yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for this video. And yeah, thanks for watching. And now we're getting to the final division, which I would say is probably the dumbest division. I kind of hate this division, to be honest. But it's the Pacific. We're talking about the Pacific, and again, going alphabetical order. First, we're talking about the Anaheim Ducks. The Anaheim Ducks, who had an incredible start to the season, looked unbeatable, top of the standings, just an incredible team. Then they just completely fall off a cliff. They might have hit double-digit losses in a row, I believe. It was looking very grim for the Ducks. But then, just like that, they flipped the switch, and they're winning 7 games in a row again. I had a lot of fun covering those last couple games in the winning streaks, with, again, great performances from their young guys like Beckett Seneca, who had his first hat trick. The young guys are looking as advertised for Anaheim. Cutter Gauthier, which I know I'm basically saying a slur for Philly fans. They don't want to hear about him, but he's looking really good in Anaheim. And right now, it seems like the Ducks are on a bit of a solid place. I mentioned I kind of hate this division, and one of the reasons is if you look at the standings right now, and you look at the win column, the team with the most wins in the Pacific Division, that's the Anaheim Ducks with 30 wins. They are currently in the second wildcard spot for the West, because teams like the Kraken, the Oilers, and the Vegas Golden Knights have more points from more overtime losses than the Ducks. So they're ahead of them, even though the Ducks have won more games. That's pretty frustrating, and I'm not even a Ducks fan, But unfortunately, with the Ducks, they do have this thing where, they can be a little inconsistent sometimes. So I don't know if they're going to be getting back to those 7-game winning streak types of streaks after coming back from the Olympics. We'll have to see. They played 2 less games than Edmonton, who's the second seed, and they're only 1 point behind. So if the Ducks can keep on going, we might not be looking just at a return to the playoffs, but we could be looking at a series starting on home ice, which would be really, really cool. Next, we have the Calgary Flames, which the thing with the Flames that I've seen from watching hockey for a little while is that they're always a little scared of committing to like a really like a true rebuild. Them and the Canucks, they kind of have this lukewarm take when it comes to retooling, where they don't want to completely tank. They want to just retool a little bit, and still stay competitive. And the Flames have gotten prospects that are pretty solid, pretty good actually, in guys like Zane Parik. By doing this soft retool and not completely bottoming out. But kind of like Philly, it seems like they have this disconnect where the coaches are maybe trying to win a lot more than they should be, and that leads to a lot of their veterans, playing a lot more minutes than the young guys who really should be playing. That's the sense that I get whenever I dive a little bit deeper into, Calgary Flames, the fan base. So in one way, it's really good that they're finally letting go of certain pieces. Obviously, we saw the Rasmus Anderson trade break out a couple of weeks ago, him going to Vegas. Now, I'm sure Flames fans were not that thrilled that he was going to Vegas, but it was a good thing that they were finally parting ways with him. I know there's been plenty of smoke surrounding Blake Coleman being moved. Unfortunately, he's dealing with an injury, and the Flames have this issue, it seems, when it comes to trading players, where they always put themselves in a really bad negotiating standpoint. If they were able to find a good landing spot for, say, Blake Coleman right now, who I believe has a year left in his contract, he's not a true rental. So, you are providing a team with a year and a half of Blake Coleman, who has been pretty solid this season. But instead, the Flames just kind of hang back, they don't do anything. And then when it gets to the contract year where, he's basically a rental for whoever's going to trade for him, the teams are not going to want to offer much for him. As a whole, it just seems like the management in the Flames organization is just not that great. The coaching staff just really needs to let go of the leash a little bit more. They're not going to be that competitive. They're not really going to be a playoff team. So they should really take the opportunity at this time to allow those players like St. Peric to develop. In the end, if you end up losing more games than winning, that's not really a bad thing, because you're kind of bettering your chances at maybe getting Gavin McKenna. So at the other end of this competitiveness spectrum, we have the Edmonton Oilers, who, made the Stanley Cup final the past 2 years, fell short both times against the Panthers, and, this season they're not looking quite as good as they have the past couple years. Obviously, McDavid's still great, Draisaitl's still great. You got guys like Bouchard, having bright spots here and there, and making a lot of people question why he wasn't, picked for the Canada lineup for the Olympics. I made fun of this plenty of times in my parody videos, but it seems like the fans are tired of screaming at the organization that goaltending needs to be addressed. And I guess, in all fairness to the Oilers organization, they tried to address goaltending this season. They went out and picked up Connor Ingram, who really easy guy to root for. Great guy, had a great season the last season for the Arizona Coyotes before playing for Utah, and kind of struggling a little bit there. He's had his moments in Edmonton. Then obviously they go over to Pittsburgh and pick up Jari in exchange for Skinner. They've been about as similar to each other. They do feel like very similar goalies. Sometimes they have these moments of like absolute brilliance that convince you that they can be the guy, they can be a franchise goalie. But you spend long enough with them, like, as a Penguins fan, you did with Jari, and I'm sure Oilers fans did with Stu, and you just realize, okay, this just is not the guy. I know Oilers fans were thankful for all he did, but you go through guys like Skinner, Calvin Pickard, Connor Ingram, Tristan Jari, and none of it seems to like really gel together for long enough to really feel like, oh, okay, now we got the pairing that we need. And on top of that, you add a lot of friction with the coaching staff. I mean, these last couple of games that they've had, they've lost a couple of games heading into the break, the Edmonton Oilers. This coming off their first 3-game winning streak of the season, which, like, if you can barely win 3 games in a row and then go right back to losing multiple games in a row, that's really tough. And these last couple losses to Toronto and to Calgary, yeah, they lost this last Battle of Alberta game. Those losses seem to be really frustrating fans, and a lot of the finger pointing keeps being directed at coaching. What that means for them during this break, I don't really know. Like, making such a massive change at the head coach position. But then, of course, Peter DeBoer is still out there, and everyone keeps bringing him up in talks. So who knows? Overall, Edmonton seems like folks are very frustrated with them, and I don't have doubts they're going to be back in the playoffs. But it's looking like it's not going to be as easy of a ride back to the finals this season. The LA Kings. I really don't want to talk about the LA Kings. It just feels like they can't find very consistent success. So you're not seeing these really long winning streaks. Well, I think they might have had like a 6-game point streak the last couple of weeks, but a lot of it is, losses in overtime and stuff, which is not really what you want. And there's a few guys like Byfield who kind of just feel a little stuck in the mud, not really wowing like in years past. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased because I do have his signed puck over there from when he was a Vancouver Canuck, but it does feel like Andrei Kuzmenko has been like the more like electric, more fun player to watch the last couple of games, and that's great. But you do need other folks to really step up if you want to be a serious playoff team. And right now, the past couple games they've had against the Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights game, oh my God. These 2 games, they lost in the first period. They got out and started playing way too late. So they were already down by the time they tried to make comebacks in the third. Well, with the Vegas one, they didn't even make a comeback. Instead, they allowed, I think it was 4 goals in 5 minutes in the first period. So, and it's for those reasons that when I heard the news, the big news, Artemi Panarin, he gets traded from the Rangers to the Kings, signs a 2-year extension worth about $11 million a year. He says he always wanted to go to LA. That was his number 1 spot, which, I mean, thanks for that. It really took away a lot of leverage from the Rangers. But you still end up feeling kind of empty after this move. Kings just don't feel like a team to me that is ready to like really go through with a deep playoff run. And I don't know, maybe they get into the playoffs as a wild card and maybe make a little bit of noise. We'll just have to see. Next, I have Seattle, which I know if you read out the names of the teams all the way like fully, you have Seattle and you should have San Jose first. But the way I organize my, everything that I do for this channel, I do it with the 3-letter identifiers, which for Seattle, it's SEA. And for San Jose, it's SJS. So I always have Seattle before San Jose. That's just how my brain works, and that's just how I have it in my notes. So we're going with Seattle first. From what I can remember last week, they were on a really good streak going on. This week they did end up losing their first game in a little while against the Anaheim Ducks. But in between that, they had wins in Vegas and they had wins against the Los Angeles Kings. So overall, really good teams to be beating. Pacific Division rivals, because that's how Seattle Kraken, are finding themselves as the 3rd seed in the Pacific right now. And then on top of that, you have other guys like Shane Wright, who I've always been pretty high on Shane Wright. I think after the whole fiasco where he fell to the Kraken in the 2021 or 2022 draft, I think it was 2022, that kind of hurt his reputation a little bit, but he's been playing great. Really, being a good player for the Kraken, and they are back in position where they're looking like they can make a push for the playoffs, which is very exciting for the fans. I mean, right now with the Super Bowl coming up, which by the way, I'm recording this on Saturday, so the Super Bowl is tomorrow. So I'm sure Seattle is really, cheering for that and putting a lot of attention there. But the Kraken, they're having solid vibes right now. Like I mentioned a little bit ago, the Ducks are below the Kraken, but have more wins than them. So, you don't necessarily have to be the best team to get out of the Pacific, or at least qualify for the playoffs from the Pacific. So Kraken still got plenty of space there to eventually lock in a playoff spot, and we'll have to see how that turns out. We have the San Jose Sharks, which I'm sure Sharks fans who are also 49ers fans are probably not enjoying this weekend as much, given that the Seattle Seahawks are coming in to their home turf and have a good chance at winning the Super Bowl there, after completely embarrassing the 49ers, by the way. But enough about that. We're talking about the Sharks. The Sharks have been struggling a little bit the last couple games I've seen. A couple weeks ago, we were celebrating because they were over 500 for the first time in, I think, 6 years. And the last time they had a winning record, they made the playoffs. So, they were in playoff position a couple weeks ago, feeling great. You had, Alex Nedeljkovic beating Sergei Bobrovsky in the first goalie fight of the season, which has, become kind of a trend. Vibes were probably off the charts for the Sharks if I had made this video a couple weeks ago, but since then they've kind of cooled off a little bit. They're still on that playoff brink, trying to make it. They're a couple points behind the Kings, the Preds, I see. And honestly, after the Sharks, you have the rest of the West: the Chicago Blackhawks, Winnipeg Jets, Flames, Blues, and Canucks. Teams that they're just not going to be making a push for the playoffs. So the Sharks don't have a ton of competition, I would say. Overall, it's nice to see the fan base growing, and hopefully they can make a push. Well, I mean, that would mean taking the Kings out of playoff contention, which you know what, I don't know if I don't know if I can make it through a Kings series. So sure, why not? Go Sharks. Okay, we're closing into the end. We have the Vancouver Canucks up next. And honestly, there's not a lot to talk about Vancouver. I think for a while at the start, especially during the whole Quinn Hughes trade saga, it was very tough for Vancouver fans, because you kind of saw the writing on the wall. You kind of saw, okay, this is the beginning of the end. Quinn Hughes, our captain, is most likely gone pretty soon. And they're a team that was already struggling to string along wins, especially at home with Quinn Hughes. So with him out of the equation, it was a recipe for Vancouver to continue plummeting. And you trade away a guy who's really beloved in his short stay in Vancouver with Kiefer Sherwood. Thatcher Demko it's been a tough story, given that he was ruled out for the season again, still dealing with a lot of injuries, and on top of that, he's starting a brand new 3-year contract next season. At the end of the day, the only thing that fans can really focus on is the fact that, like, hey, the tank is on fully at 100% right now. I don't see any other team really beating them for the bottom spot. If things do work out for Vancouver and they end up with a guy like Gavin McKenna, it would be pretty cool. I would really hope that this front office can, they just stop with the retool, stop it, commit to the rebuild to really get out of that rut, because that's how you end up with letting your franchise player and captain get traded. And finally, we have reached the last team. Boy, I can't believe I've actually talked about all these teams, but we have the Vegas Golden Knights. Going back one last time to that conversation about Anaheim, having the most wins in the Pacific, but being in a wild card spot right now. It's really funny with Vegas. I think aside from maybe Minnesota, nobody else has gone to more overtimes than Vegas, and it really feels like that. Every time I go in to write more notes about the latest Vegas Golden Knights game, it's always, oh yeah, they were down multiple goals coming into the third period, and then they forced overtime. And like right now, they're in a bit of a rut, so they are in a bit of a losing streak. Whereas right before that losing streak, I think they'd won like 5 games in a row. So Vegas they're going through a bit of a roller coaster right now, and I'm sure fans are really feeling it. Obviously, though, they built up a really nice lead, nice cushion for themselves at the top of the Pacific with a stronger start than how they've been playing as of late. Newer guys like Marner have admittedly played really well for the team, and doing a lot to help Vegas, still rack up points, even if it's just overtime losses. But you also got to keep in mind that once the playoffs arrive, you're not really competing for overtime points. I mean, not to be too critical, but Vegas is a team that after coming back from the Olympic break, they do need to get it together a little bit if they really do want to be serious about making not just a push to the playoffs, because I am confident that Vegas won't have much of an issue getting into the playoffs. You're going to be facing off against some combination of, Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, maybe. Like, you have to get through one of those teams, and then afterwards you might encounter someone like Tampa. So those are teams that, in my opinion, they just seem like way more serious right now. So it's not like panic time for Vegas at all. They need to figure it out sooner rather than later. Hey y'all, Future Sal here. As I might have explained at the beginning of the video, this entire 4-division video that I planned to make ended up being a lot longer than I realized. I'm still not done editing every single piece of the video, so that's why I decided, hey, instead of releasing one long, boring, hour-long video, how about I just release them by division? That way I can get some content out to you all a little bit more frequently this coming week. So that's what I'm going to be doing, which means I'm going to cut it off for today here, but stay tuned. The next divisions coming up should be popping up in your feed pretty soon. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what y'all's opinions were on the video, what opinions you have of your own team, and let's have a discussion down in the comment section. I always appreciate those. And as always, remember that kindness is free to give, so go out and spread some today.